comunitate faină și minunată, suntem în seara asta în direct cu voi, Dumnezeule, suntem o comunitate chiar frumoasă și efervescentă în același timp. Sunt Cristian Stâncanu, așa zice lumea, gazda dumneavoastră la Midnight Caller Talk Show. Iar, dacă nu se aude bine, divină este prietenul nostru drag Răzvan Ionescu, care ne-a sfătuit să punem un microfon altfel ca să facem treaba cică să fie mai bună și să nu mai stau cu microfonul ăla în față așa, că vai de mine, nu-i bun. Acum fiecare să-și dea cu părerea în comentarii dacă e mai bine așa sau era mai bine înainte. Și noi vedem dacă îl fugărim pe Răzvan, prietenul nostru, în jurul blocului sau nu. În seara asta, nu neapărat că facem o încercare, dar este un interviu unde avem un invitat foarte fain. Și de ce spun că e fain? Pentru că e plecat din Marea Britanie, locuiește în România și suntem tare curioși cu toții să împărtășim din experiența asta, cum poate fi văzută, cum este văzută România prin ochii unui britanic, cum vedem noi situația asta, ce credem noi, cum a ajuns în România. Așa că avem invitată și o să vorbim mai mult în limba engleză de data asta și sperăm să distribuiți, să ne dați like-uri și tot ce ține de lucrul ăsta ca să apreciați ceea ce facem, să putem merge mai departe. O avem invitată în seara asta pe Arabella McIntyre-Brown. Actually, I'm wondering if my pronunciation was right.
Spot on.
Good evening. Good evening. And welcome to Midnight Caller Talk Show.
Thank you very much.
What you can tell us about you? A part of you was a journalist in Great Britain, and you are author now, yes?
Yeah, I was a journalist for about 15 years, I suppose, magazine business journalist, and then I switched to writing non-fiction books, mostly about Liverpool. So I spent 20 years in Liverpool before I moved out here being Piatra Craiului, near Brasov, and I was actually born in West Sussex in 1958, which makes me extremely old, but hey-ho.
Oh, no.
But what was so lovely, I'll tell you more of the story later, but what makes this place so special is that it's so like West Sussex. When I first came out to stay in 2003, we had a caruța ride up to Magura, and when we came off the main road onto the track in the national park, it was like going back 50 years to my childhood because of the limestone. Var? Is that Var? The mountains here? Limestone mountains, which are white. And
oh yeah, Var, yeah.
All the trees and the flowers and the butterflies and the birds were just the same. I didn't see any bears on that first visit, and I didn't see any eagles. So I was just looking at the Sussex comparisons, and it just was a feeling of being instantly at home. It was quite bizarre. So that's probably mostly why I ended up here, because it just feels like turning the clock back by nearly 60 years to West Sussex in rural England.
But what was actually the main reason to travel in Romania for you at that times?
Well, this sounds really trivial, but I like traveling on my own. I don't like being on holiday with everybody, because I find that, if you're on holiday, even with the best of friends, they want to go off and do something. They want to go to a city or sightsee, and I want to stay there, rest and read a book. And some people don't like that. So it's easier to travel on my own. And if I'm very lucky, then I'll meet up with people, who are friendly and chatty and so on. But I like to travel on my own. So I was thinking about going to Verona, to the opera. I love opera. But when I looked, single supplements were nearly twice the price of a double room. It was nonsense. So I thought, well, so I scoured the internet, which was very young in those days, and I found this thing, a course about wolves and gypsies, and I thought, oh, in Transylvania. And I thought, well, I grew up with, I'm sorry to say this, but I grew up with Hammer horror films about you-know-who, the only person that's ever known worldwide about Transylvania. So I thought, oh, well, I'll have a look. And there were pictures of Brasov, which looked really beautiful and old. And the price was ridiculously cheap. And I thought, I'm going to Transylvania. So I came for a week, knowing nothing about Romania, really, and knowing nothing about Transylvania other than the fictional obvious. And I was just mightily surprised. And I was with a small group of English people, women, who were lovely, and I'm still friends with. And we went to meet the gypsies in Zelenești, who were lovely and very welcoming. And we came out to Magura and had a căruță ride to Bran. And it was just so beautiful. It was like the best of England and the best of Greece and the best of, I don't know where, mountains and green, 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 green landscape. And it was just stunning. Anyway, I've never had much money, so I went home.
And when you actually decide to move in Romania, and how that idea was coming?
It was one of those things, you know, it was one of those events in life. Having bought the house here the next year, I'd intended it as a holiday home, because I had a career in Liverpool. But then my sister died, and she left me enough money to buy a dog kennel in Britain. You know what property prices are like there. But out here, it meant that I could buy a little house. So I found this place, and I was thinking about, it needed a lot of work, and I was thinking about holidays. But then when my sister died, and then 3 other members of the family died, and then my mother the following year. So 5 family members in 14 months. And it sort of knocked me flat. And after a couple of years, I couldn't really work. I couldn't concentrate. And I thought, I can't change this. I've got to go. I've got to change my life. And I suddenly thought, I've got a house in Transylvania. I'm going there. So I moved. That's the long and short of it.
Wow. Yeah, interesting story, and this just the beginning. And after that, when actually you move in, how was actually start your life there? Because if it's on the countryside, especially if it's on the countryside, it's for me. I'm asking myself how you actually start the building the relation with the people from your neighborhood or the neighbors, and how was the first steps in communication with everyone?
Well, I didn't move into my house straight away. I was staying in a pensione up the hill, and the lady who runs the pensione doesn't speak any English. She understands a little. I was desperately trying to learn a little bit of Romanian from books. The lady next door to the pensione did speak very good English. But I'm used to living on my own. I've always lived on my own. I grew up in the countryside. The people here are very like the people I grew up with. You know, they're kind, they're hardworking, they're curious, but they're not intrusive. You know, they've been very tolerant with me, very kind. So I really haven't become part of the village because I don't have a family, so they don't go to school. I don't do church, so, you know, I don't see anybody on Sundays. So I'm not really part of the community, but everyone knows me and they're very kind, and, you know, we all wave when I go past in the car, and I stop and talk to people on the way. So I think they they really didn't understand me for the first couple of years. They didn't understand why a woman of 52 would want to move to a new country without a husband, without children, without any support system, living on her own. They could not understand it. Anyway, they've grown to understand me. And when they discovered, the funny thing was, when they discovered that I was a writer, they went, ah, now everything is clear. Now we understand you're a writer. Writers apparently can get away with anything. We're expected to be eccentric.
Yeah, probably because in our history, the most respectful people, especially on the countryside, was actually the teachers, the priests, yeah, the mayor, and the doctor. So they was actually the point of the sat or comună, how we say in Romania, and they are as well kind of the role model in the community, and probably that is one of the reasons. But and I'm wondering, even now you are invited to the activities of the community, or you had the chance to go, I don't know, to see how people work in the field, or to be invited on some parties or something like that. I'm really curious, and probably all of our community is curious about that.
Well, this speaks well of the community and badly of me, but I don't like parties.
Okay.
I am a hermit, you know, so I don't like lots of people unless they're all friends of mine. If I have a party in my house, that's okay. But I'm not very good with strangers. And yes, of course, they're Romanians here, so of course they're very welcoming and hospitable, and my neighbours are always saying, come down, come up the hill, we're doing this, you know, come and join in. But either I forget, because, you know, certainly it may just be this village, I don't know, but I suspect it's a Romanian thing. You don't do diaries. You don't do schedules in the same way that the British do. The British live by their diaries. What time? Okay, 6 o'clock Tuesday, see you there. So either I forget that something's happening, or I just can't cope with that number of people. So I don't go to many village occasions, sometimes, but not many. I have been to the school for about a year. I was giving, they're not English lessons because I don't know how to teach English. I know how to use it, but actually teaching. But I was teaching them pronunciation and, I don't know, telling them stories and singing songs. But no, I've been a hermit, and I know my neighbours regret this, because they're very friendly, hospitable, chatty people, and they would love it if I called in for coffee or a bit of tsika or whatever. But I don't drink. I'm really, really boring.
I was nearly to ask you about that, because you actually live in such a really beautiful place in Romania. Mm-hmm. So, but very well known for palinka and many other traditional products. How you cope with the food actually in Romania? What you really like? What you really love?
Well, I cook for myself, of course. So I cook a whole mixture of things. My favorite, I cook Asian food, and I mix everything. I mix up the whole world's cuisine, you know, whatever I fancy. I make, if I'm in the right mood and the timing's right, I'll make a big jar of toccata, because it's just the most delicious thing. The recipe that I have is mostly red peppers, I use ardei rather than gogoshar because they're cheaper, and onions and tomato paste and carrots, morkov. Oh my God, it's so good. And to have that on the shelf in the kitchen, looking so bright red in the middle of winter when everything's white, and just take the lid off and eat a spoonful. Oh, it's like summer in a jar. It's wonderful. Zakuska too, of course. I'm not great about pickles. Romanian's gratar is fantastic. Everything done on the gratar, the meat, the vinete, everything is just fantastic.
Yeah, we're really really fun when it's about the barbecue or gratar.
Yeah,
I say in Romania,
yeah,
we are like crazy. I think it's something in our blood about that.
yeah. But it's great. And in the countryside, of course, it happens a lot because it's easy. You know, you have all the space outside. So to set up the gratar and the space for dancing. My neighbours are very good at dancing. They're very fond of it. So weddings and any excuse for a party, they love it. So I love watching from my window and listening to the music, but I'm not very good at joining in. My neighbours, there are many jokes about me. I am sure there are many jokes about me because I'm strange, but one of the things they learned early is that I'm not a great fan of bults. Some mamaliga generally, but bults in particular. I like a teaspoon or lingurița once a year. Sufficient. It's too. I'm not keen on mamaliga, which is heresy to Romanians. Your listeners will be going, no, bulls, mamaliga, what the chip? They'll be horrified, but it's just a personal thing. So the neighbours know, and they say, would you like some bulls? Knowing that I'll say, no, what's the matter? So, yeah, so the food, I wish there were more vegetables in Romanian cuisine. I like cooking in the Italian-French style. Vegetables are lightly cooked and lots of them. So I had to get used to that. But as I cook for myself in my own kitchen, I can do what I like.
Did you share some I don't know, something from what you cook actually with your neighbors? I'm curious because you was told me you cook from actually international kitchen, international. So I'm wondering how they find your food actually.
Honestly, they're too polite to say if they don't like it. They're very courteous, They have the courtesy of princes here, which is wonderful. I mean, in England, if a man you don't know comes up to you and kisses your hand, you'd be going, "Ooh, get off!"
Yeah,
it's creepy. But here, if a man you don't know comes up and says "Sarumana" and then does, it's incredibly charming. I don't know what the difference is, but it's so natural. It's wonderful. So it's one of those little cultural things that works here and doesn't work elsewhere.
I believe, I'm not pretty sure, but someone from the audience can confirm that. I'm pretty sure this cultural behavior is coming from France, but I'm not 100% sure, which is a way how to show the respect for a woman.
I would have thought France or Italy, because they both do that.
Mm-hmm. We have some.
We do have some comments. Yes. The first one is nice to meet Arabella. I didn't know her before. Oh, how lovely. Meech, which some found very exciting. And thank you for this evening. It's amazing to hear Arabella talking about her Romanian day-to-day experience.
Yes, basically, it's good to share, because that probably we can learn from you. Yeah, and it's really important for us to see how the British actually see Romania. Yeah, in what way, in which way, what way, each way.
In which way?
In which way, yeah, and how you perceive the cultural differences, because that's again must be a little bit hard for you.
Well, I suppose it wasn't hard, but it took work, because I was brought up in the country like this, in what you would call a cartoon, but what I would call a hamlet in England. But the landscape in the South Downs, again, var, chalk, same birds, same nature, and we lived in the middle of nowhere and had to be independent, and our neighbours were very like my neighbours here. You know, they were country people. They worked hard, they were kind, they were generous. So that wasn't the big shock for me. But I had been, excuse my cat.
Hello.
She's gone on. I'd been living in London and Liverpool for 30 years, so I had to adjust from being in a big city to being back in the countryside. There are, of course, the language. You know, I went over. I was 52 when I arrived, and it's too late really to start to be able to speak a language properly, at least with my brain. So I can speak a little.
Yeah, I can see, and your pronunciation is actually amazing.
Thank you. As long as it doesn't sound too English.
No, it's not.
I've heard English people saying "Piatra Kryloi," and so on. And if people said, "Oh," as soon as I opened my mouth, "Oh, you're English," I would be disappointed. But often people say, "Sunteți româncă?" No. Englezioaică? And they say, "No, Englezioaică? No. They don't believe that an English person can learn Romanian, which of course is nonsense. A lot of my immigrant friends speak fantastic Romanian. So it just depends if you have the talent, I think. I will tell you, to be honest, that there are things that I don't like about Romania, but, you know, if you go to a new country, there's always going to be something that's not perfect. Obviously, we're human beings. I'm quite sure that a lot of your listeners will be able to say quite a few things about Britain that they think is wrong or infuriating or difficult, whatever. So it's things like, there's a little thing which drives me mad and it makes me laugh. There is some law in Romania that's never been written down that says that steps inside the house or outside the house cannot be the same height. You have a little one, and then after that you have a big one. So 10 centimeters, then 25 centimeters, and then maybe 15 and a 5. So I end up falling up or down steps. You're looking puzzled.
I didn't heard about that.
Well, you're probably so used to it, it doesn't occur to you, but it drives me mad. That's a little very stupid thing, but it's funny. There are things like, you know, the corruption, particularly on a local political level, with local corruptions and things, that drives everybody nuts. You know, my neighbours are driven nuts, crazy about it. It's one of those stupid things. It's getting better. When I first came, the bureaucracy, you know, having to go to 5 offices in Brasov to get one piece of paper. You have to go to 5 little windows and pay 3 lei and 5 lei. And, and you can't do anything online. Now that's changing a lot.
I was nearly to ask you that how you find the system in Romania, because for you must be like crazy to change from quite, as you told me before, like going 50 years back, to change from something which you have on the touch of the finger to in middle of the nowhere, from that point of view, like to be necessarily to go everywhere to sort it out, some papers or something. How was that? Did you adapt?
Absolutely. No, mind-bogglingly frustrating and infuriating. I mean, it was just, why? Standing in queue after queue after queue. However, I understand, coming out of the communist regime, where I'm not an expert, and forgive me if I've got this very badly wrong, but I imagine that part of the problem with communism, or the communist administration, was that they liked to create chaos. It suited them for the system to be chaotic and keep control of people. So Romania's had to come out of that really very quickly. It's what, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. It's not a lot of time to change the entire national system. So, but it is changing, and sometimes it's changing really fast, and it's fantastic. So these miserable women in little pokey offices in the town, who seem to be trained to be horrible. It's a horrible job, but it's like, what? Now you get really courteous, helpful, intelligent people who say, of course, what can I do to help? It's fabulous. Or you can do things online now. It's great. So things are changing a lot, which is brilliant.
It's really great for me to hear that from you, especially the fact that you can feel some changes, and that's amazing for Romania, because probably slowly, if we can sort it out everything. No, we can't change the system over the night, and that's clear, because basically 38 years is nothing after so long time under the communism. It is quite hard, because that will be actually passed to the generation, and even now for the system is really hard, and sometimes not necessarily unacceptable, but maybe really hard to understand the changes and the way how the life can be. And when you live in Romania, basically you don't have any kind of comparison to have some terms around of you. For you, you can compare now, and you can see the differences, and that's really understandable. And I'm wondering how was first time your frustration and anger when you tried to solve some issues, being used to use the British system.
Well, thank God I had a lot of help when I first came over, from various friends and kind people. So without them, I'd really struggled. For instance, I had to go and register my PFA, just a little business. And, the commercial centre in Brasov, oh my God. You know the word job's worth in English. Do you know that word?
Yeah.
Job's worth. It just means an individual who you can't pay them enough anything to make them helpful or cooperative. They just want to be difficult. And good Lord, you go into the first office and there are jobs worths everywhere, and they just go no, no, no. And then I was with, he said, "Mulțumesc, la revedere," and took me outside upstairs to the director's office. And this is so Romanian and it's so non-British. He just knocked on the director's door, opened the door, put his head round the door, and said something. And the director was a very charming woman who said, "Come in, let me help you." She just stopped everything and solved everything for me. So you meet somebody like that and you think, that's fantastic. But A, I wouldn't have met her without my friend, and B, I would have given up downstairs in the new office. So without
in the new office, that's good one. That was good one. I will. Yes, Denisa, we have some.
Yes, so
messages.
someone provided a short description about you in Romanian language, which was really good as well. And someone else said, "Miserable women." Oh my God, the lady is so cute. And someone provided a question in the comments actually. Do you ever think to return to the... three questions. Do you ever think to return to the UK? Did Brexit change anything in your life? And how do you cope with winter in Transylvania? The last one is quite funny, as we were just talking about.
Let's put in different way. First, and after that we will speak about the winter.
Yes, so it's mainly about if you're thinking of returning to the UK and the impact Brexit had on you, and if any.
Oh yes, it did. Do I think about returning to the UK? I think about it, but I've no plans to do it. When Labour won the election last year, it was a great relief because I couldn't have gone back to Britain under the Conservatives. It was just unspeakable. Brexit, it gives me ulcers just to think about Brexit. I can't believe it happened. It's like I'm not going to start on American politics. Don't start me. But Brexit, I found the most bizarre decision of any decision that's been made since, I don't know, the First World War or something. It was just incredible. Such a stupid thing to do. And Britain's paid very heavily for it. I, thank God, was out here. So, and the Romanian government was very generous to us Brits. The people that were already living here. I had a 5-year permis de ședere. And so, those of us who were already established here were given a lot of help by the government to stay here, which is fantastic. And those people who had to leave, people in Romania, Romanian people in Britain who had to come back because of Brexit, it's just a disaster. So I'm very glad that I was out here when Brexit happened. And a major practical reason for not going back is I can't afford it. I would not get that much money for the house here. I'm now old, so I can't go and get a job. I just couldn't afford to go back to Britain. Can't afford to live there. So no, I love it here anyway. But practically speaking, I can't go back. And I'm very glad that I've been here to benefit from the health service in Romania, because the poor old health service in Britain is such a disaster at the moment, as I'm sure some of you will know. And the health service here is improving and improving and improving. It's fantastic. So
I'm really glad to hear that, especially, but probably I don't know if for you it's quite different because you are kind of British, which will access the medical system, and I'm wondering if it's about the private one or the public one.
It's a state one. I can't afford private health. No, I pay my health insurance, state health insurance, and I get very good value for it. And I mean, there are still things to be improved, like the food in hospital, not great. But that's not just in Romania. You know, that's been the case in Britain for a long time. And there are certain things that drive me potty, but they're minor. I was in hospital last week for a week, and everything was so much better than it was 4 years ago, the last time I was in. So, you know, Romania is on the up, and I hope it continues up. And then the May elections don't, you know, tip over and send it down again.
Hopefully.
Well, if it does, I don't know what I'll do. That's if certain people get in, will cause problems for foreigners and obviously, you know, Romanians, then I might have to think seriously about going back to Britain, because I don't want to live under that sort of political system. Anyway.
Which is understandable, but I need to do some mention here, because I'm happy with a part of NHS, national health system from UK. I can be agree with you when it's about the dental services in UK. Yeah, and I've tried my best in different ways and in different, I don't know, in different style. I don't know what can I say. Probably I will fly in Romania to do some work, and I have one good friend there which working in this area, in this field, and hopefully she will be kind with me because I didn't call her before, but is debatable. Probably we can't compare Great Britain with Romania, because it's such a huge difference in terms of how many people are living. So basically in Greater London are living half of the Romanian population.
Well, that's the problem. I have my oldest friend, who I met when I was 4 on our first day at school. She is a very senior nurse consultant, so I get my NHS gossip from her.
Okay.
So she's a very well-informed source, and it is absolute chaos. Apparently, there are just not enough people. There is no money. So although the quality of the medical staff is very good, you know, the training and the knowledge and the what they can do is fantastic, there's just no money and no people. So yeah, the quality of medicine in the UK is good. Probably still better than Romania at the moment, but all the doctors in Brasov last week were young women. I didn't see a man at all. No, I saw one young medical student downstairs, but they're all young women, and they all speak fantastic English, and they're prepared to talk to me sensibly, and ask me to ask questions. It was fabulous. So Romania is definitely, you know, on the up, while Britain is struggling at the moment. In terms of health.
Let's speak about winter. How you can cope with the winter in Romania?
I hate it. I tell you, I cope with it by shutting the door, lighting the soba, and watching YouTube. The cats do the same. They don't watch YouTube, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them in here at the moment. So they stay in the warm like me. The snow's okay. If I can drive my car up to the neighbour's house, then I can escape. But the hill is quite steep outside my house, and I've been stuck here for weeks in the past because of the snow. But if I can get out, I can get down to Zărănești and go to Lidl and, the Farmacia, and I'm okay. But I read a lot of books. I write some books.
Yeah, you should tell us a little bit about that, about the writing books, about the inspiration, how Romania and how everything what you have around will inspire you, or how that can build or amplify your skills.
Well, inspiration. Yeah. The first book I got published out here, it was translated into Romanian. I wrote it in English, of course. I don't know if you can see that one.
Yes, it's perfect. Take the name, please. Yep.
It's A Stake in Transylvania. The Romanian version was Din Liverpool in Carpați. Not my choice, the publisher's choice. But it did very well at Gaudiamus in Bucharest in that November. It was the best-selling book for the publisher that during the fair, which is great. So that's a memoir of why I came to Transylvania and why I've stayed here. It's not really about me. It's about my neighbours and the wildlife and the house and just the village. Pretty much what I can see from my windows, I don't talk about Zărănești even, or Brașov or Bucharest, just here. Because there's enough going on here to make a book. Then I was asked to write a book I met a publisher at a friend's house, and she said, can you write for children? I said, well, I've written one book for children. And she said, we need a book. We need a children's book in a month. This was February the 15th, just about now, and it had to be ready for Bookfest. She said, you've got a month. Can you do it? And I said, yes, because I'm a journalist and we always say yes. And then I thought, what have I just done? A month to write a book. Anyway, I had written this book, The Dragon Who Squeaked, and it's actually it was a commission in Liverpool. It was illustrated by 30 local children. This one...
that's so nice.
It's beautiful, the Chinese dragon. This one was drawn by an 11-year-old boy called Vlad Paroan, whose parents are both doctors in Liverpool, specialist doctors at the university. And when I was talking to him during the project, and his mother was standing next to him, and he said, my name is Vlad and I come from Transilvania. And I laughed, and his mother said rather meanly, Vlad, you don't. You come from Bucharest. Which I thought was a shame, poor Vlad. But I just bought the house, and so I was interested to find out. Anyway, they were lovely, and I got to know his mother a little bit, who was great. So I started with that book, and so the publisher said, can you write another one? So in a month, I researched this book. It was much longer than the first one. It's all about, and I set it in London, and it's Dragoni pe cerul Londrei, Dragons over London. And actually, any of your listeners who live in London might find this amusing because it's historically accurate. So it talks about lots of over 1,000 years of London, all the history. Anything that's mentioned in there actually happened on the date that it was supposed to happen. But what most people don't realise is why it happened, and it's usually the dragons that caused it. So the Great Fire of London in 1666 started in Pudding Lane, where they say it started, but it was the dragons that burnt the pie shop down. It wasn't the pie maker, it was the dragons. So the history is accurate, but the reason behind it is just been revealed. Anyway, it's quite a fun book, and it's for kids, and kids loved it. And then I wrote, so that was a lot of research, but this next one, Floss, the Lost Puppy, and they're in English on this side and Romanian on that side.
Oh, that's amazing.
This one, well, the dragons is the same. It's fantastic. Kids absolutely love it because it helps them learn English. But Floss and all the other books, the other two books, are all set in a village very like this one. It's called Fun, which is a little in-joke that nobody will get except me. Fun, Hay, the village of Hay in Wales, is a book town. They have a massive international festival there. So it's just a little tiny joke calling the village Hay. But I've had to do no research at all for this book. So from that point of view, living here has been very, very useful.
I'm wondering what are the most, maybe hopefully I will put in the right way the question, what are the most yes, Denisa,
so we did have some comments.
Okay.
My hometown Brasov attracts Brits. Charlie Otley is another one. And bless her, definitely had a lot of patience.
Yeah, I know what they're speaking. I'm wondering.
Yeah, Charlie Otley is my neighbour. He lives in Shirna, just across the hill. So it's Magora, Peshtera, Shirna. So and I know I've met him a few times. He's a lovely guy, and he's done far more than I could ever do for Romania. He's just been the most fantastic ambassador. Nice guy.
And we thank you for that. I'm wondering, in terms of, because you are always in connection with the nature in Romania, you experience such a different culture. How much did you find some similarities between, let's say, the old British culture, the old British style, and the Romanian culture?
Well, as I said, when I first came here, and ever since, it's bizarre. When I first came, it was really like going back into the past. So I was in West Sussex I was born at the end of the 50s. So my childhood was all the way through the 60s and 70s. And we didn't have internet or mobile phones or anything. We had little transistor radios to listen to at night underneath the blankets. And life, looking back now, life was a lot simpler in many ways. So when I first came, nobody had satellite dishes, nobody had mobiles, very few people had cars here. So it was just like going back into the past. It was wonderful. It's changing now. Everyone's got phones, everyone's got computers, everyone's got a car. But for the first 10 years, it was amazing to see something of old Transilvania, Arabella, before it changed too much.
Interesting, because we are quite related to the Queen Maria of Romania, which was actually the most beloved queen of Romania, and we've always mentioned when we do some events, especially it's kind of our country brand in UK. Yeah, and King Michael of Romania as well, which was the cousin of the Queen. So
he was a cousin of Prince Philip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Philip of Greece and Prince Michael, I think, were first cousins. But the Queen, through her grandmother, Queen Victoria, and her great-grandmother, one of Queen Victoria's granddaughters became Queen Marie. I've heard nobody, even the most staunch left-wing Republican Romanians, say anything bad about Queen Marie. Everyone seems to just love her. She sounds amazing. I would love to have learned more about her. I mean, there's nothing stopping me. I can read her books, but there's a guy called Dan Dragilescu.
Mm-hmm.
Dragilescu, you know who I mean? He's made some fantastic films about her and King Michael. She sounds amazing. Such a strong woman. Amazing.
But because this week is the we commemorate, or how we say, we celebrate, and it's celebration or commemoration, I don't know how to put that in English, of Brâncuș, which was another great Romanian, which was actually living in France for long. Did you hear something about him?
Well, of course. Yes, Infinity and so on.
Yeah.
It was one of the first things when I started learning a little bit about Romanian and how to pronounce the language. Brâncuș made me laugh because when you look at it written down in an English, when you're looking at an English book, all the English people I know, including me, pronounce it Brancusi because it looks Italian. And when I came here and learned that it was Brâncuș, it gives me pleasure to correct my ignorant English friends when they come over and they say Brancusi, and I say, no. Little things like that give me pleasure. I'm sorry.
No, it is nice because sometimes we do. You know what is funny and nice in the same time, because we acting so similar in this kind of situation. Yeah, so we are not different, and this is one of the main point of the interview, which I want to show. Yeah, basically, because sometimes, some people will say, how will be if one British will live in Romania? Now you have in front of you, one British which actually chose Romania for the natural, for the beauty, for the simplicity, and because sometimes the technology, can be really good. All this evolution can be amazing. But sometimes we need that place which actually give us the peace, the simplicity of the nature, and it's really amazing because in the time when many Romanians was actually looking to work in Great Britain, and some of them to have a life here, to build here, like a house, to buy a house, to build a social life. He was actually the British which was looking to go in Romania, bought a house there, especially on the countryside, which myself I find some challenging. That will actually be challenging even for me. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure for you it was. But it was a reason to write a book, and to put that story in front of the people.
I tell you the interesting thing, when I wrote the book, I had a lot of emails and comments and Facebook messages, and when I met people in person, there were some really interesting comments, and they fell into two main groups. The men who'd read the book all said, oh, it's a fantastic ethnographic study. And luckily they said it was accurate, thank God. And they were looking at it from, you know, a social, historical, whatever way. The women, on the other hand, were most impressed by, I mean, some were impressed by the descriptions of the house and the food and, you know, medicines and so on. But most of them said, I can't believe you were so open about your mental health problems, because I, you know, had been through a bad depression, and I go through them from time to time. And they said, you're so open about it. And I said, well, it's not my fault. It's nothing to be ashamed of, which is what I learned in the process. I was ashamed of it. I said, you know, there's an enormous number of women, and of course men, who go through some form of mental ill health, depression, whatever it is, in their lifetime. You know, people, life's hard. But the British, and now I discover the Romanians even more, hide it. You know, they don't admit to it. They don't talk to anybody, even their own husbands. And they all said, I realised that I wasn't crazy. It wasn't just me. I'm not alone. You know, it's a common thing. And thank you. And that really moved me, you know, to think that somebody read this and realised that they weren't going crazy, and that there were a lot of us going through the same thing. It meant a lot. And that's important to me.
Because
so it was an interesting response.
Because you mentioned that it's actually something which I will thank you for that, because in our culture it's looking like quite shameful to speak about that, and to be open. We was no, and I'm speaking now more about probably my generation and one before. It's like shame to be open, to speak freely, and about kind of personal issues, but which are actually not only the personal issues, because are issues in the community, in the society. But in our education was to always that fact, then you shouldn't speak about that. Yeah, you shouldn't share your problems. That actually can affect an entire society, because if no one knows what will be the real problems, no one can give you help. No one can help you. That can't be solved.
Well, actually, I'm wondering again. I don't know. This is what I'm guessing from my experience here. Is that I think, you know, people of my age and older would actually be frightened of admitting to mental ill health, because when I first came in 2003, we were taken to the psychiatric hospital in Zărnești, and it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And what I was told was that, you know, if a woman got depression after having a baby, she was put into the psychiatric hospital and she couldn't get out again. Once you're in there, you're in there. Now, that would be a very good incentive to keep your mouth shut about your problems. So I think that may have been part of it. I don't know. Do you think that sounds reasonable?
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true, because
it's changing. It's changing so much now. You have, when I first came, you couldn't find you know, in Britain it's easy to find a psychotherapist or a counsellor, but here there weren't any. You know, there were state psychologists or psychiatrists who would give you drugs and shut you up, but the private therapy industry didn't exist. Now it does, and there are some very good therapists around, and they're learning really fast. So again, it's part of the change, which is great.
Yeah, because actually, I think I strongly believe Romanians which are living abroad, and we are quite an important community at the moment which are living abroad. I think we bring sometime with us some knowledge which we have from other countries, and sharing all that knowledge and all that experience, that will improve the way how the society will work. I'm pretty sure of that, and I saw in many cases that kind of evolution. In the same time, when especially with the younger generation, which have more access to the internet and any other kind of platforms or systems, even the movies, the books, the new ideas on the market, the new invention, and the youth are very sensitive on that, and they pick up everything. And some of the youth are really amazing. I'm not the fan of leaving the Romania, yeah, but maybe for some experience or to do some school or part of the school, as is in Great Britain. Yeah, in Great Britain you can choose 1 year from your uni to be made in a different country. Yeah, that experience, I think, is good for all of us, because we can't be on the side. Yeah, and this is what sometimes I'm trying to strongly prove. Yeah, we can't go back in history. Yeah, and now everyone we are so similar. We are human beings. Yeah, we only speak different language, and maybe we have different knowledge, different level of knowledge. But on the other side, we are the same.
Well, we're Europeans. I mean, I think that if a European went to China, for instance, I think it would be a massive cultural shock, because
oh yes,
their whole mental approach to life is completely different to ours. Not to mention the language, which of course is radically different. But Europeans, we're so similar, all of us. Maybe the Hungarians and the Finns and the Estonians are a little bit more different than, but you know, the English, half our language is Latin, the other half is mostly Germanic, and then words from anywhere. Most of your language.
We have words from anywhere as well. You're Romanian, from French, from Turkey, from Italian, from Spanish, even.
Yeah, but the same in England. You know, most of our words for cooking and food come from France. So you know, you might say zucchini, we say courgette. You may say vinaigrette, we say aubergine. We don't have an English word for aubergine. That's for French. So, of course, we borrow masses of words, but the number of words in English that are either identical in Romanian and may just sound a little different, or very similar. So, the things I noticed, the patterns you notice, because I'm lazy and I don't like to learn the language properly, I look for patterns. So words that end in ion, like station or operation, become stație, operație.
Yeah.
So if you have an English word and you don't know the Romanian word, if it ends in shin, there's a good chance that you can apply that pattern to it and it works. And if I can remember the Latin word, I can try that, and it's usually the same. It's fantastic. So you know, we are so similar in Europe. We're a little tiny community, really, compared to the rest of the world. But what you say about traveling, if I were Queen of the World tonight, I would have a law that says that every young person between the age of once they leave school, before they go to university, is paid by the state to travel for 1 year on a different continent, not just a separate country, going to France or somewhere. No, you go to Asia, or you go to Africa, or you go to South America, because there is no better education than travel. It shows you how other people live their lives, and you find out the similarities, because we're all human. And you find out the differences, and you see how lucky you are in some circumstances, and you get envious of their luck in other circumstances. It's just, and you come back full of ideas and experiences that you can share with your friends and your family. It's just the best education.
It is.
So,
I'm pretty sure of that. I can't be, how is the right expression? I can't be more agreed than that. Yeah, it's right. Yeah. hopefully, because I remember the time when I invite my father here in England and he spent nearly 1 month, and he was so shocked about the way how the society is working here. But in the same time, when he was go back, yeah, he start to do some really big changes, even to destroy some of the things from the house and to rebuild in that way, which is also. For that reason, I think your idea should be actually put in place on the government to be a law, yeah, for students to have the opportunity to travel, and even between the universities or something to be like changes for 1 year or minimal 6 months, different programs. That will be amazing. We invite last few years ago we invite one teacher and one student from a school from Romania. It was the English teacher and one of the students which actually was good in English, and we invite them for 5 days, and they spend 5 days in a school in London, and they was actually amazed, about the way how everything is working here. So, and I'm pretty sure that experience was actually improved the student life and the teacher experience, because we received some really nice messages even after long time. Even a short time can open people's minds. Although I don't know what part I played in it, but I somehow persuaded a school in Liverpool to send out to Sibiu a small group. I think there were about 7 or 8 of them, 16-year-old girls, Catholic girls. It was when Sibiu was capital of culture in 2007. And so there were 2 teachers and these girls who came out, and they stayed in Sibiu for a couple of days, and they came to Magura for a night. And they went home buzzing, they were absolutely buzzing, because they had no idea what Romania was like, none. And they said, it's so beautiful, everyone's so friendly, They went home, and then the girl called Lavinia, who was one of the guides in Sibiu for the capital of culture, she organised a group of school girls to come over to Liverpool, so it was an exchange. And they came to dinner at my house, and they were saying, I did a lot of food because I love cooking for parties, and it was the usual sort of mix of food. And they were saying, "Oh, it's Romanian food." And I said, "I don't think there's any Romanian food here. This is Romanian." I said, "No, it's not. It's English." And they said, "No. Oh, this is Romanian food." I said, "No, it's not. It's either English or French." Anyway, it was very funny. And they looked at some of my old furniture and they said, "That's Romanian." And I said, "No, I promise you, my mother bought that in England in 1966. They couldn't believe the similarities. Yep, many similarities, and that's really nice, because actually we've always, the entire society is borrowing always from the. I don't think so we can say something like, oh, this is traditional Romanian style. Maybe it was traditional in last 20 years ago or 30 years ago, but definitely we had some influences from the British, because if I will go back in Romania now and I will start to cook, for that reason I will start laughing. Even if I will start to cook now for some of my family and my friends from Romania, definitely they will say, what is this? It's not like how should be. Yes, because I had some influences from the Indian food, British food, Caribbean one, which is really tasty. Even the Polish one, which I discovered here, more than in Romania. I never had the idea. Even sarmale you can find on the Polish one, which are really similar but quite bigger. And what we say borscht is like so many things, and we are inspired from all of the places where we're going or where we're traveling, especially when we have more time to spend than like simple tourists. And I really want to understand you why you love that way to traveling.
Well, I, as you can probably tell, I like food. And, one of the great pleasures of traveling is to try other people's food. So when I was in Singapore, it was all new to me. I was 15 and I'd never had Asian food before that, I don't think. No, I hadn't. Everything's new, and now I get volunteers from all over the world, and they will cook me something from South America or Peru or South Korea, and it's just, the influences you get from around the world. It's just one way of enjoying other people's cultures and learning and just taking pleasure in it. I think it's great. You asked me, I didn't answer the question a long time ago, if I'd cooked for my neighbours. I remember making it was actually a plum crumble. Crumble?
Yeah.
I mean, the British do love their crumbles. And so I made a plum crumble, and I gave it to one of my neighbours. And I asked her, and she was quite honest. I said, "Did you like it?" And she said, she didn't want to say no because she's too kind. But she didn't like it, and it was very strange because crumble is like placinta, the other way, upside down placinta. Yeah. You have plums, you have flour, you have sugar, and a little bit of ginger or whatever. But it's placinta, but upside down. But she didn't like it, and I think probably she's not used to it because they eat very traditionally. But more importantly, I don't put as much sugar in as a Romanian would.
Oh yeah.
So I think it really wasn't sweet enough for her. But no, she didn't like it. But that's fine. I can buy them things that they like, rather than trying to cook for them.
Well,
she's brilliant at gogosh. Oh my God. She doesn't bring them up anymore because I've said I'm diabetic. Please, because they're so delicious. I can't refuse them. Just plain little gogosh dusted with sugar, and she doesn't put sugar on mine anymore. So if I have visitors, she makes them. They're just so good. And she'll bring up. She used to bring up bits of chicken from the gratar. The problem is, I know those chickens by name. I've named them, and I feed them, and I chat to them. I can't eat people I know. you know, it's cannibalism. So.
Yeah, understandable. Sometimes it's understandable. I never put it in that way, especially when I was child. Yeah, I need to be honest. When I was child, and you know, I spent most of the breaks on the countryside with my grandma and my grandfather, and they cut the you know, and the chicken, and they prepare, and I was at the beginning, for the first time, I was quite scared about that actually, but after that, slowly, if you grow up in that way, you know, it's like something usual. I don't know if I will be capable now to do that. But if I will have a live chicken, yeah, around, I don't really know, because I didn't do it from, I think, nearly 20 years. Yeah, so try to imagine how it will be now. Will be quite strange even for me. But I'm wondering how you find the music and the dance, the folklore in Romania.
Well, we'll come on to the folklore in a minute, but the music's fantastic. I'm still not. I mean, I don't dance for all sorts of reasons, but I love to watch it. And the speed of the musicians. You know, you go to a wedding, and these musicians will play for hours, and then they'll, you know, one of them will lie on the floor under the table and get an hour's sleep and get up and start playing again. And this goes on for 3 days. They're unbelievable. I've never met anybody who loves to party more than the Romanians. It's fantastic. So I love to watch it and listen, but I'm not a dancer myself. But it's great stuff. And what I love is that certainly here in the village, people still play instruments. You know, most families have, I don't know, somebody who plays a pipe or a flute or guitar or something. And they all love to dance, and they know the traditional dances. We've lost that in Britain, which is a shame. It's one of the bits of culture that we've lost completely, and it's a real sadness.
You mentioned about the traditions. You touched upon a bit about
nearby
the
the microphone, please.
A bit about the dances, and also a bit about the folklore music as well. Are there any particular traditions that you've seen that you really liked during winter now, perhaps since we are in winter, that you might want to share with us?
Well, as I say, I'm such a hermit that I tend not to go to events. I mean, I love looking at photographs of the Juni in Brasov. You know, all the men on their horses, all dressed up. It's fantastic. And there was a festival, the Toamna in Zarnești, I think my first year, and all the boys and the horses just look beautiful, and they're all dressed in their fabulous costumes, and then the dancing, you know, with various bands. And it's just gorgeous. I did get drawn into the dancing in that, because everybody, you couldn't say no. Yeah, I love all that tradition, but as I say, because I don't like crowds very much, I don't go to a lot. But visitors love them.
It's really hard to refuse a Romanian, and I know that, especially when we're speaking about the party, or where you are invited somewhere, you need to eat. Yeah, you need to eat. You need to try everything from the table, because otherwise you'll get in trouble. And I know that even from my mom, because when I visit my mom, she's put the hand like this, and did you try that? Did you try that? Did you try that? I work all of the night for you. Yeah, so you can't say no. Yeah.
This is part of England or Britain that's lost. You know, it used to be like that in Britain too. You know, you you went to somebody's house and they'd feed you. You know, there's no question. They'd just feed you pizza or anything. And it's the same here. You go to somebody's house and they'll feed you. And they'll pour drink down your throat. And it's very hard to say no. And that's how things were back in my childhood. But in cities and generally now, not so much, which is a real sadness, I think, about Britain. But it's still alive here, very much.
About the quality of the food, because probably you everything what you eat is actually organic because it's from the countryside. If you live on countryside, you have the opportunity to have basically everything from your neighbors or from the farms. When was the last time when you visited London? And what you can say about that?
Oh, well, I mean, London's fantastic. It's a world city and it has the best cuisine in it. You know, it's got everything. It's got Korean and Peruvian, and it's got, I mean, you can get anything in London. And English cooking now is world class. In the 60s, it was awful. In the 70s, it was awful. But now it's really, you know, you can go to the best restaurants and have the most fantastic food in London. Well, you know, in all sorts of places in Britain. And you can still go to a traditional old greasy spoon and have, you know, a big old greasy bun full of bacon and egg and, oh, so good. So everything's moved on and improved. But, you know, what I eat, I grow some of my own vegetables here. You know, I grow beans and mange too, if I can find the seeds, and tomatoes don't do well here. There's not enough sun for long enough in the year. I need a solar to grow tomatoes. But yeah, the quality of the food for the ingredients is very good. The personal problem that I have is that there's still a traditional tendency to overcook vegetables, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
I like
agree with that.
vegetables. I like vegetables, as the French say, au point, not well done. So that's the only thing I don't like so much. But it's improving again. You know,
I think
in
it's
Brasov, you have raw vegan restaurants in Brasov. Raw vegan. It's amazing.
That's amazing. I didn't heard about that, but now because you mentioned that, it's really amazing because I don't think so was that before somewhere. Yeah, because we are really with the meat.
2003, when I first came, there was a vegetarian in our group of women, and they obviously asked for vegetarian food, but the pensione we were staying at had no clue what vegetarian meant. So she'd be given soup full of vegetables, or the few vegetables, but it's made from chicken stock.
Yeah.
And they gave her pasta. It was just plain white pasta with no sauce, no nothing, because they didn't know what to cook her.
Yeah,
vegetarian, you know, you don't want meat. Deloc, nothing.
Yeah, that's strange.
So for vegetarians then, it was difficult. Now it's fantastic. You can get every restaurant. And then it took me a long time to realize this because I'm stupid, but I realized that if you're vegetarian or vegan, when you go to a restaurant, you just ask for the menu de poste, which is vegan.
Yeah, good point. Really good point.
My neighbors said vegan. No, because to them, you know, vegetarianism is just, and post is difficult. It's meant to be difficult. And I said, post, you're vegan. No. So now I say to visitors, if you're vegetarian or vegan, ask for the menu de poste, because it's there all the time. And nobody questions it. They will produce you lots of lovely food. It's vegan.
That's true. And on the other side, you was mentioned actually in terms of vegetables and overcook. Actually, I learned the same way from my grandmother, so probably this one was coming from our cultural background. Now here, and actually what I saw in Italy as well, the way how to I learn even for myself the way how to cook the vegetables to be cooked, but not like overdone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And the sweets as well is, I think it's characteristic for Romania when it's about the sweets. Yeah, to really use the sugar in all of the sweets.
Clatide I like because it's not so sugary. But my own little joke is when I have visitors who've never been here before. Say we go to a restaurant, Sardiana in Brasov or wherever, or we go to Caru Cubere in Bucharest, and I'll suggest that they have a ciolan de porc, enormous piece of meat, masses, all with vegetables and mamalia and everything, and so they're trying to eat this, and it's delicious, so they eat it, and then they say, what do they have? What would you recommend for dessert? And I said, oh, you must have the papanache. And these two enormous things come out, with cream and jam and pastry, and they look at it and they go, no, and it's so delicious that they make themselves eat it, and then they barely stand up. That's my little joke.
What can be the best connection? Yeah, because we have literature, we have part of history in common, but when we speak about the music, dance and food, that will bring us together. I think that will bring together all Europe. And there's no doubt.
Those are the human things that go back way beyond history, much more than literature or anything. So those are ancient human connections. You asked me earlier about superstitions and folklore. Well, if you asked a random person anywhere in the world about the folklore of Transylvania, of course, there's only one person they mention, and he lives just down here, just behind me. The toothy aristocrat, as I call him. Of course, he was invented by an Anglo-Irish theatre manager, author. But people take it terribly seriously. But the real folklore of Transylvania, with the Yelele and the Capcaon and the Zmeu, and there are a lot of these amazing figures of folklore which are much more fascinating and much older and mostly unknown, which is a shame, because it's very rich folklore, and I wish more people outside Romania knew about it.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm so excited and so amazed about the fact that you are actually, and probably many Romanians which are living in London will be in the same way, because it's not. Sometimes when you see only from one side, yeah, it's one, but to have the chance to have some discussion with someone which can see from the other side of the coin, that will complete actually the image, the whole image about life and how to be an immigrant or emigrant, yeah, or in the same time both of them, or basically an European citizen which are living in the same continent, because sometimes we so easy put our boundaries on the borders when, in my opinion, shouldn't be in that in that way, and everyone should be able to live where they feel, and to learn and to build an entire society with all of the knowledge which they pick up from actually all of the places where they was traveling.
Well, that's for me, it's the great. I don't care so much about trade. I know trade is important, money is important, but for me, the real tragedy of Brexit is that we've removed ourselves from the freedom of movement. So, you know, the advantage of being able to live anywhere in Europe, to travel freely, it was just fantastic. I mean, not just for young people going to this university or that university and doing studies and research, but just me, you know, coming to live over here. And we've lost that. I really hope that it probably won't be in my lifetime, but that one day Britain will go back into the EU, because it's just the worst loss, really. So I completely agree with you. I don't know how much time we've got. Do you want to close up now? I just want to say
it's up to you. It's a pleasure for us to have you.
Well, I just wanted to say on the comparison between, say, London, but any big city in Britain, and Bucharest. Let's look at the capital city, because they're usually the worst. I have never felt any threat at all in Bucharest. And my book printers are in Ferentari, and I got lost in Rahova once or twice, and you know, people said, "Oh, you went down there on your own." I said, "Yeah." Why? "So dangerous." I said, it wasn't. People were perfectly fine. I've never felt any threat from anybody. And in fact, my visitors, several of visitors, they arrived at Otopen and they come into the city centre, and they're standing in the street, you know, looking at their map or their Waze, whatever, trying to find out where they are. And some stranger will come up to them and say, in perfect English usually, "Can I help you?" And they're very helpful, and they show them where they're going to go, or they're, you know, and they're charming and courteous. And there was one woman who came and said, "This guy, he was homeless. I mean, he was really scruffy, a bit dirty, but he spoke perfect English, and he didn't just tell me the direction, he took me to where I needed to go, and then he just vanished. He just dropped through the floor, the ground." And she said, I realised that he'd actually gone down through the street, through a manhole. And it must have been one of the you know, the subterranean sewer dwellers in Bucharest. There's quite a lot of big community down there. And she couldn't believe it. A, she couldn't believe there were people living in the sewers or underground because they were homeless. And B, she couldn't believe that a homeless person like that could be so charming, courteous, helpful, and spoke such perfect English. You wouldn't get that so much in Britain. So if anybody, visitors say, "Is it dangerous, Romania? You know, am I going to get murdered? Am I going to, you know, are they thieves?" I say, "No, no, you'll be fine." And it's a frustrating image that foreigners have of Romania, because it's just not true. Of course, there's some crime here, but very little compared to Britain. The drug problem is almost non-existent.
Oh.
There's a big, I mean, of course it's growing everywhere. Alcohol, not so much of a problem as it's universal in the UK. Awful. But it's one of the things I really love to show visitors about Romania, that it's safe, it's beautiful, it's friendly. And I like to overturn their prejudices and their preconceptions. That's fun.
What I can say, your kind words, and the
They're
way
not
how
kind
you,
words, they're just true and not
and
kind.
the way how you describe Romania is like amazing for me, and thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for all your time, and I'm looking to meeting you in London. Yeah, we're looking for you and to have you in our studio, and maybe to share more and to speak more, because your life experience can be really valuable for us, for the Romanian community which are living in London, and not only in London, in UK generally, because we need, and I strongly believe the younger generation actually need people like you to share all of the experience. And we're looking for a new book. What do you think? What are your plans?
Oh, well, I've got lots of books, ideas that are almost done, but I'm in the middle of writing a book for not quite children, not quite young adults, somewhere around the 11, 12, 13 age. And it includes some folklore. Again, it's set here in a village very like Marea. And it's quite dark. The story is quite dark, and I hope it's interesting. So I hope to get that out this year. So when it's ready, I'll let you know.
Please do. Please do. Thank you very much.
I'm very honored for your interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for tonight, and I will try to speak with everyone in English and Romanian as well, to really, that's quite hard to swap for me, you know. Așa, vă mulțumesc din suflet tuturor pentru că ați avut răbdarea să ne urmăriți. Arabella McIntyre-Brown a fost pentru noi toți în seara asta alături de noi și am discutat și am împărtășit din experiențele de acolo, din România, sau România prin ochii unui britanic, și de aici cum vedem noi românii Marea Britanie. Până la următoarea noastră intervenție, țineți aproape, pentru că vă aducem lucruri interesante. Și nu uitați, un share, un like, sau de ce nu și o contribuție mică ca să ne sprijiniți activitățile. Sunt Cristian Stâncanu și vă urez noapte bună. La revedere!